So, does anyone care to touch on this further?
My name is Jerry. I left MAGA, and I'm here to spill all the tea. Today, as the description suggests, I'm going to be talking about my third least favorite Mormon. I'll have to stick around to find out who number 2 and number 1 are. But Glenn Beck. Now, I listened to some of his stuff early on, but he was definitely no Rush Limbaugh. And I'd already kind of pulled away from Rush Limbaugh by the time Glenn Beck showed up on the scene. But I've known some folks that just stuck true with this guy. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into this first piece just to set the temperature on the water.
And now look at it at Sandy Hook. Look at it at Sandy Hook. Wouldn't you rather have people question whether this was a conspiracy, whether this thing even happened, and have this debate on a conspiracy theory on something that clearly did happen? I mean, how many people would have to be involved to make this whole thing up? Wouldn't you rather have them talking about that conspiracy than what the Federal Reserve is doing? Than what our federal government is doing? Just take it down to guns. Wouldn't you rather have them debating whether the government was setting this up? I mean, if I'm Cass Sunstein, this is what I do. I get into these groups and I say, you know what, it's a conspiracy. It never even happened. Because then I'm debating whether or not it even happened, and I'm not debating the gun control that they're putting through.
It's the birther thing, too. I mean,
yeah.
Let's debate whether he was born here instead of whether his policies are horrible.
I mean, it's important to know if the president was born here or not. But that's the policies. By the time you got to that, the policies were so stunning. That's why the president was bringing it up himself. The only time you ever heard about that was from the lunatic fringe, and I mean very, very small groups of people that were talking about it. But the White House was the one that was constantly bringing it up and stirring the pot.
MSNBC.
Right, because they wanted you to talk about that as opposed to his policies. The same thing is happening. It's important that we know the difference between conspiracy theories and conspiracy fact.
Well, I've got to say, Glenn got that one right, but I hope that by the time we get to the end of this, you'll understand why I picked Glenn Beck today. Pardon me. So, if you're not familiar with Glenn Beck, he does this chalkboard, whiteboard routine, and it's rather interesting. Now, I didn't remember this particular variation of his chalkboard setup. I think I've got 1 or 2 other clips set up. I'm sorry, this is going to be a longer one, but I have a lot I want to transmit on Glenn Beck. So let's take a look at Glenn Beck. Oh, by the way, in that last clip, that Sandy Hook reference and very tiny group of fringe people, I'm pretty darn sure that Glenn Beck was referring to Alex Jones and company. Sorry. So yeah, let's just go ahead and check out this explanation from Glenn Beck on how America works.
People are fleeing the parties, and they are standing somewhere in between. Now, let me give you conventional thinking, and then I'll show you what I think is happening. Here's the GOP and the DNC. They're right here. This is a scale of freedom. On this end is total anarchy. On this end is total government, fascism, communism, totalitarianism, the theocratic state. Whatever it is, total control on this side.
I think it's rather interesting that they're willing to put freedom on a spectrum, but nothing else. Just an aside.
Total anarchy on that side. Freedom scale. The founders put our Constitution about here. Originally, the Articles of Confederation were here, but it was anarchy. It was too close to total freedom. So they had to move it here. The Occupy Wall Street movement, the libertarian, the on-the-edge libertarian that want the country to burn down, are over here in anarchy. Yeah, well, we'll fix it by, well, we'll have the total government collapse. That's a few nut jobs over here. And anarchists. Over here is...
Okay, again, he's talking about Alex Jones.
The media, Hollywood, EDU, and also the real Occupy Wall Street. They are somewhere here from the moderates. They're somewhere over where the DNC is and closer to the communists. That's where they are. The GOP is here. They'll tell you, the media will tell you that these are the moderates, somewhere in between here. But I don't think that's where the moderate people are. This is the Tea Party. Somewhere between the Constitution and, I don't know, the smallest government GOP guy that you can think of. That's all of this. That space here. This is America.
I hope that's providing a clue and helping set up where we're headed with this tonight. Or I'm saying tonight because it's getting dark outside in this episode. Yeah, there's a fun little clip. It's not very long. You can see the title there.
And Blackwell's doing something in Ohio that you think is
Ken
good.
Blackwell's doing some really good stuff, and that's reform. It's a proposal to reform the Electoral College because we don't want to abolish the Electoral College. That's the bicameral aspect of the United States where the states get a voice and the people get a voice. If it wasn't for the Electoral College, you'd just run down the West Coast, up the East Coast. You would never do the flyover states. Electoral College is really good. But the problem you have is right now so many states do and the Constitution allows states to set how they award electoral votes. Right now, it's winner take all. Therefore, if you live in Washington State, your only voice is SeaTac. That's it, 55%.
Right.
If you live in Illinois, sorry, Chicago is your voice. So what they're saying is electoral college, but do it congressional district.
I think that's really good.
And that's really good because that allows everybody to have a voice instead of just Chicago or just San Francisco or just Portland having a voice. Everybody in the state gets to have representation in electoral college, and it's really good.
Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to rig the game in their favor. I could be wrong. And I did not go back to the old Obama clips. I think those will probably resurface at some point. So, yeah, this is a particularly fun clip, and I'm going to show you why right after. You'll notice this is January 22nd, 2015. I want you. What happened 6 years later? 1 day shy of 6 years later. Think about that. If you don't know, if you can't calculate that, I got a hint coming up for you.
That's exactly what Jeb and Mitt are doing. And they're doing it against the Tea Party people. And I'm telling you, there's something really wrong in Utah. Something really, really wrong. Remember,
no doubt about it.
Remember it was the Mormons, the two Mormons, Smoot-Hawley. They were two Mormons that brought us the Smoot-Hawley Act, which brought us the Great Depression. Sometimes you know their theology can go and mix with politics and go wildly wrong.
When Mormons go bad,
they go really bad.
It's a really
when Mormons go
show.
bad, they go really bad.
Yeah, when Mormons go bad, they go really bad. Man dressed as Captain Moroni during Capitol riot has been charged with crimes. Yeah. Anyway, I'll get into some of the characters when I finally get around to the Mormon piece. But yeah, January 21st, or I'm sorry, January 6th, rather, 2020. So it wasn't even, it was, my math was wrong earlier. Silly me. Oh, migraine for a couple of days has got me thrown off balance a little bit, but I'm back on the mend. Anyway, David Barton assures Glenn Beck that the government can outlaw homosexuality. Boy, check out the mental hoops on this one.
The right of conscience used to be an inalienable right. That word inalienable meant not to be touched by government. period. That was it. If it's inalienable, the government can't touch it, whether it's
Nothing
life or
can
liberty.
change it except God.
Nothing. Nothing but God. And I think the best way to understand that is a jurisdictional analogy. Now, I've got my red pickup. You've got a white car. I look over in your yard. I really want your car to be red, so I go over and spray paint your car red. The difference is I can spray paint anything I want red if it belongs to me, but I cannot touch anything that's yours and spray paint. That's a jurisdictional line. And so the government's looking over and saying, oh, that's an inalienable right, that belongs to us. We're going to mark it up with our spray paint. And they've crossed a jurisdictional line. They no longer respect private property, including the private property of conscience, the private property of faith, the private property of self-protection. That's all private property. The government can't touch it. So that
just like the government can't say, you can't be a homosexual, because that's you. That's how you practice your life, right?
To some degree, but the government has always taken stands on behavior that undermine the government itself. And that's where morality has always, see, consanguinity, government's always gotten involved. You can't marry your brother and sister. You can't marry your first cousin. So there's always been things that protect the moral climate of the society. And if you don't have that moral climate, then you should have no crimes of any kind, because everybody will disagree on to what degree is manslaughter, and what is it self-defense. And so you've always had standards on behavior.
Hang on. He said something there that I missed earlier when I was going through these. I think it's right around here.
Mark it up with our spray paint. And they've crossed a jurisdictional line. They no longer respect private property, including the private property of conscience, the private property of faith, the private property of self-protection. That's all private property. The government can't touch it. So that
just like the government can't say, you can't be a homosexual.
Okay. Check out this follow-up. I've got a question.
Because that's you. That's how you practice your life, right?
To some degree, but the government has always taken stands on behavior that undermine the government itself. And that's where morality has always, see, consanguinity, government's always gotten involved. You can't marry your brother and sister. You can't marry your first cousin. So there's always been things that protect the moral climate of the society.
You can't marry your brother, you can't marry your sister, you can't marry your first cousin. That protects the moral climate, is what he's saying. Which, it's genetics, not morality, but morality plays into it. I'm not going there right now. But I also think it's rather... Oh, good grief. He wants to use this to regulate the morality of homosexuality. So since he can't marry his sister or his first cousin, he doesn't want gay people to... Maybe I'm off base. Maybe I'm off base. Maybe somebody can correct me on that. Let me know what you think. But yeah, that caught me a little by surprise listening to it this time. Let's see what clip have I got up next. Oh yeah. Yeah, here, let's have some fun with this one.
If you look back at history, what happens to people who have voices and can cobble together people and be a leader, if you go back to what happened with the Armenian genocide, what is the first thing the Turks did? What is the first thing the Nazis do? You have a night of long knives, the Armenian genocide. Any of the Armenians that could lead, any mayor, any writer, any person that was a hero in war, in one day, in each city, they would kill about 1,000 people. They just slaughter them. And they were all the leaders of the community. Anyone that people would rally around and follow. They were killed day one. They just disappear or they kill, which means they do that so there is nothing left but sheep and no shepherds. I'm telling you now, if you want the republic to survive, you must say you are not a sheep, you are a shepherd. There are 10 million people that listen to this show. They cannot kill 10 million people in one night. You were born for a reason, and you're listening to this show for a reason. Read the essential speeches of Martin Luther King. There is one way out, and it is through reconciliation, peace, love, the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of Gandhi, the teachings of Bonhoeffer, the teachings of Martin Luther King. Prepare for a time when voices like mine or others are no longer heard, and yours is the only voice.
Put a pin in that message. All right? In fact, I'm going to go ahead and leave that tab up. We'll probably come back and revisit it. I'm not going to play this whole video. It's 3 minutes long. We just need the first few seconds or so.
Donald Trump is the opposite of every great leader with humility I've ever seen. Donald Trump is the most arrogant man I have ever seen. You want to fix America? You do not do it with arrogance. It's the way we end, though. It really is. Let's go out in a big, flaming... I was going to use other words. Yes,
earlier, so you better watch it.
I have heard other words today, and I was starting to use. He's the biggest flaming body part that you could possibly imagine that is located in the back of an individual just below the waistline. This guy would be an embarrassment if he runs. If he really runs, I'm really considering running. Just to be the guy on the stage going, hey, I thought everybody who wanted to be a joke could run for president.
The point, though, and this is you bring it right to the meat of this, is it's not that Donald Trump has any chance of winning the presidency. It's not that Donald Trump has any chance of winning the Republican nomination. The problem
it's not that he has any chance of bringing any real conversation or dialogue either.
Of course not. And the issue...
Okay, I'll give Glenn credit for the not bringing any real dialogue part, but they missed it. They totally missed their guess on Trump, didn't they? Because this is June 17th, 2015. This is like 2 days after. This is 2 days after Trump came down the golden escalator. I only remember June 15th, 2015, because June 15th, 2025 was the 10-year anniversary of the cult of MAGA. And it's this past decade has just been, it's been a wild ride. I've got a lot of milestones this year. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I love this here at the beginning where he was calling Donald Trump, and they couldn't even say ass. Anyway, moving along. Yeah, this one is just, you can see the title there. I found this particular clip kind of disturbing. I know it's 2 minutes long. I'll probably make some comments along the way through it. But I want you to think about this clip in a modern context, if you will.
He really knows to do with ISIS because we are trapped in a politically correct box. I'd love to hear from you as a libertarian. We're trapped in this politically correct box. And my feeling is you never bring out the horses and the cannons to play unless you plan on using the horses and the cannons to the best of their ability. You go in there and you blitzkrieg. You wipe it out. And you say, never again. You don't do that ever again. Don't touch us. We activate this and it is hell on earth. And then it's over. Okay? Then you come home. You don't rebuild anybody. You don't do any of that. You wait and wait and wait and wait until you have no other options, and then you hit them hard. We're hitting them with flowers and cupcakes and, well, we might also hurt you, but we're not going to hurt you where it really hurts you because we know where you're all hiding, so we wouldn't want to bomb that because that's craziness. War is who can kill the other side faster than the other. Which side can take the breath away You know, people think the fuel air bomb is a horrible device. It's absolutely the best device if you want to explain war. What the fuel air bomb does is it comes down and it sprays fuel up above the troops, and then it ignites, okay? It doesn't just rain fire down. You're dead before the fire comes because it sucks all of the oxygen out, okay? That's what has to happen to win a war. You suck the air out of the room. You make your opponent go, that's what stops war. We're not prepared to do that. So you cannot fight this war until you're prepared to be brutal in killing people. Period.
That there wasn't any place to interrupt it. I mean, he was just rolling with it, wasn't he? Oh, man. My dad's listened to so many years of this guy. Decades, I guess, by now. Okay, so this is October 1st, 2015. And we're still hearing, over 10 years later, over a decade later, we're still hearing this nonsense, aren't we? Oh, we're being persecuted. We're being persecuted. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Link will be in the description, but let's just get the lay of the land.
Stop listening to the people who got us into this situation in the first place, who told us these things would never happen, that all of these things that are happening now was lunacy. It was too crazy. It was too pessimistic. It's all happening, and you're still listening to those people. What the hell is wrong with us? What the hell is wrong with us?
I wonder if he's referring to the Heritage Foundation, which got like 60% of their business done through the Reagan administration. I don't know how much they got done through the Bush administration, Bush 1 or Bush 2 administrations. I'm not sure how much they got done in the first Trump administration. I checked in on the numbers recently. Project 2025 is at 51% completion. Last I had looked prior to that, it was at 48% completion. But, yeah, they're blaming us. I mean, I was one of them then. So, but, again, this is one of those cases of the lack of self-awareness. I lacked the self-awareness because of the indoctrination that I had. I was raised with a martyr complex. It was my lot to die for God and country, defending my family. Anyway, moving right along.
It's time to turn some tables over. It's time to start turning some tables over in our own households and in our own churches. You want to change the world? Do you realize that it's about 60% of Christians aren't even registered to vote? 60%.
And he drops off into some Christian nationalism, and I'm just going to leave it right there. Like I said, link will be in the description if you want to watch the whole video for the full context. Now, Glenn Beck says Ted Cruz is divinely anointed and has been raised from birth to save this nation. Yeah, you gotta hear this because I got some follow-up for it.
But then he says, but God has not revealed Ted Cruz as the divinely anointed alternative either. To you, Dr. Kidd, to you, God hasn't revealed Cruz as divinely anointed. I understand that. I respect your opinion on it. But here's mine. I have seen this man's life. I have watched this man. I have prayed about this man. I have prayed about it by myself, out loud, in quiet, with my family, with my staff, and I happen to believe that Ted Cruz actually was anointed for this time. Would there not be someone that was in the pool that might have the right qualifications for God? Is he that disinterested in all of us? Or is it perhaps possible that just like in the Bible, people were raised from birth for a specific time? Are we that inconsequential, Dr. Kidd? Are we really not important enough for him to raise someone up at this critical juncture?
Oh. So I was working up a Ted Cruz piece. That was originally going to be, this video was originally going to be Ted Cruz. Obviously it's not. But this is why it turned into Glenn Beck. This clip, and I believe it's no, it must be the next clip that I'm thinking of. Let's go ahead and observe this video clip from 2016, March 25th, 2016. And I think this might be a really good opportunity to take a peek into the psychology of the movement from back then.
Bob explained the door of disconnect, that when you are truly afraid, and our audience, and I don't mean our audience, I mean the right, because the right has been talking about the loss of our freedoms, the loss of our Constitution, the loss of our jobs, the loss of the Western way of life, ISIS, all of this stuff. We've looked at this where the left hasn't. We've looked at all of this for the last 12 years.
Okay, so wait. Air of superiority. He's being kind of, I'm going to call him out on his narcissism. He's displaying an air of superiority. He's othering those that are not like him. And he's being demeaning towards them. Not necessarily dehumanizing, but demeaning.
And we've discussed it. They keep denying that stuff is even happening. We know it is. And in 2000...
Okay, so there, he's attacking intelligence, in case you didn't pick up on it. He's attacking intelligence. And there, he also went into the absolute othering. I'm actually kind of, well, no, actually, Glenn Beck is modest enough that he tends, well, never mind. Let's move along.
2012, many of us, and I would be interested to see how many of those people were Trump supporters, many of us said, I'm not doing it anymore. I just can't look at it anymore. I don't want to pay attention anymore. And those are the people that have now entered the door of disconnect and are Trump supporters. They're the ones who say, I just want somebody to fix this. And the more you talk to them about facts, the more they will protect that door. And what the door of disconnect is a door between left brain and right brain.
Now, pay attention to what he's talking about putting up a barricade against the door against between them and the facts.
Your reason is leading you to a place of such fear that you close a door and you say, I'm not going there. And you find somebody that is talking to your passion and saying to you, I will take care of you. And you put all of your support there. And so when you attack that guy, your brain automatically goes, and you attack him using facts, your brain automatically goes to that door where the facts are that you've already sealed off. And you're like, I'm not looking at those. I don't want to look at those. This guy is going to save me. And what you do is you stand and you bar that door of intellectual facts and intellectual arguments, and you say, I'm not going there. This guy is going to save us. You're wrong. And you attack the person who's trying to come to you at facts.
And that's exactly what happened when my dad finally admitted, I can't look at any of the stuff you send me. Yeah, I don't think I need to play, if I remember right, I don't need to play the entirety of this one. Like I said, this is going to be a longer video. There is one video that I'm only going to play No, I'll play the whole thing. It's a longer video, and let's just roll forward. I'm a little discombobulated at the moment. Sorry.
Satan doesn't destroy, he perverts. If it's a strong tool, he perverts it. And if he can't pervert it, he'll destroy it.
Yes,
But he perverts it, so it's a tool in his hand.
that's right.
We are the most amazing tool to ever grace any toolbox. The United States of America.
Oh, look at that. There's Jonathan Kahn. Anyway, I did a video about him a couple of videos back.
Is an unbelievable power. And I have said for years, if we don't destroy ourselves, or if God doesn't do a Tower of Babel and bless us by destroying us, Satan will pervert us, and we will be the darkest nation. We're going to make Hitler look like rookies. Look like rookies. If we're not destroyed first.
Let's back that up about 10, 15 seconds and listen to that again.
By destroying us, Satan will pervert us, and we will be the darkest nation. We're going to make Hitler look like rookies. Look like rookies. If we're not destroyed first. Does that make sense to you?
Well, you know, there's something with that, and that is that, first of all, yeah, Satan can't force destruction. He can he can lead people to do things that leads to destruction.
Right.
All right. Yeah, if we're not destroyed, then we're going to make Hitler look like a bunch of rookies. Interesting. Especially in the modern context of January 2026, if you're watching this sometime in the future. The Minneapolis Loon, the Minneapolis Rebellion. Renee Nicole Good, Alex, Jeffrey Pretty. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. I've heard it pronounced Pretty and Pretty. Anyway, times are tough, and I'm trying to help explain why that happened, or how that's happened. But let's check this out.
You know, do you believe Julian Assange? I will tell you this. Read the papers.
For those observers that might not know who Julian Assange is or was, that's the WikiLeaks dude.
Read the internet. Sources are under attack. Confidential sources are under attack. And you cannot reveal confidential sources because there are sources that are concerned about this very kind of thing.
Well, it's a very standard journalistic practice to not reveal your sources.
Correct.
In fact, it's something that
It's
every
in the
journalist...
First Amendment.
Yeah, in fact, it's something that every journalist I've ever heard of in my entire life basically says over my dead body about.
Correct.
It's the thing they hold most deep.
Now, what I can tell you from a journalistic perspective is if you have 2 or 3 unassociated witnesses that bring you stories that are similar enough, it makes it a little easier to figure things out. But sometimes a confidential informant might be a CIA agent. I mean, it happens. We'll talk about that at some point in the future. But I think it's important to be able to reveal your resource or your sources. I as a journalist utilize open source information. I don't do a lot of interviews. I've done interviews in the past, but it's always been very open. I don't like doing anything under the guise of secrecy. Always got me in trouble in the past. So, yeah, here's this fun tidbit. After Glenn Beck was praising Ted Cruz, not even about a year prior to this, and then he just goes off.
For the first time, and I'm sorry if that was too contentious for people.
We should do it, right? I mean,
Yeah, and I will tell you that's not what I expected. But there was something in there, and I'm not going to go into it. There is something there where I have private conversations with people, and I know I know what was said, and I know the story. And for the very first time, I heard Ted Cruz calculate. And when that happened, the whole thing fell apart for me. And it's my fault. It's my fault for believing that men can actually be George Washington. It's my fault. I should have said, you know who can win? You know who could beat Hillary Clinton? Marco Rubio. And I disagree with him on the Gang of Eight, and there's about 80% that I do agree with him on. And he's kind of a politician, but he's a different kind of politician. He's a young politician. He's a Hispanic. He can win. Let's go for it. Instead, I said, let's find a truly honorable man. And that will always let you down. Right now,
Marco Rubio and the second Trump administration is the Secretary of State, and he's not doing so good right now. I don't know if you've noticed yet. Glenn doesn't have a great track record, and it's not going to get much better. I'm not going to spend any more time on this video, but I wanted you to hear that setup on it. I should have lined it up. Maybe I'll throw it in on the end in a quick edit. The McNaughton video, or McNaughton painting of George Washington kneeling down in prayer next to his horse. McNaughton is a Mormon. Wow. Anyway, I should do a profile on him. Yeah, so let's move along. Glenn says we are racist if we accept Steve Bannon in the White House. I'm seeing a lot of differings, or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm seeing a lot of differences of opinions between Glenn Beck and reality. It's almost like Glenn is insignificant in the bigger picture. I mean, I could be wrong, but he's influenced a lot of people, but he keeps missing. He just keeps missing. Oh, and Steve Bannon, not too long ago, at some point in the not too distant past, announced that if the Republicans lose the midterms in 2026, that there are some people are in that room that were going to go to jail, and he was probably going to be one of them. So anyway, let's see how the midterms in 2026 play out. Let's see if Steve Bannon goes back to jail again. Anyway, it's crazy, man.
If you know Steve Bannon's agenda and his vision of America, it's not pretty.
Well, and here's that first big clash is going to be. Steve Bannon has talked about wanting to oust Paul Ryan out of the speakership. Well, Reince Priebus and Paul Ryan are best friends. They're both from Wisconsin. They both started there. Reince has great relationships with Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. And how does that play out over?
Doesn't Bannon stays, Reince leaves.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What are his connections to Breitbart still? Is he completely separated?
He says he is, but
I wouldn't
believe it.
I would want to actually see, maybe we can push for a similar type something he can sign, kind of like the precedent of how Obama made Clinton sign that.
Yeah, and that worked so well, didn't it?
Oh yeah, that works great.
Yeah.
But something along, I mean, something that we could have, you know.
All right, I'll work up a profile on Steve Bannon too. So again, this is another one of those Glenn Beck clips that did not age like wine. Let's see. Oh yeah. August 3rd, 2025. That's when some things started going kind of sideways in the United States with ICE and stuff. That's when things seem to really start kind of ramping up, and it's only gotten worse. But let's see if we can sit all the way through this. I don't know if I'll interrupt or not.
There is a growing pattern, and there have been continuous violent incidents since December of last year. The exact same.
All right, yeah, I'm going to be interrupting a whole lot because this would have been December of 2024, and take a look. Just take a look at. If you're looking at this from the future, you might be looking at this as a historical reference. I don't know. I'm hoping maybe. But in the current era of the end of January 2026, it's not the left wing that's doing attacks. It hasn't been. But I just want to set the record straight before we actually move into this right-wing propaganda piece. All right.
Same ideology of radical leftism, anti-Americanism, Marxism, anti-Semitism is fueling a wave of political violence.
All right, so yeah, we're going to get a lot of interruptions here apparently. So in January of 2026, leading up to this time period, I have personally witnessed a lot of anti-Semitic rhetoric and behavior within what is called the MAGA movement. I saw it up close and personal when I was still in MAGA. My exit date is July 31st, 2023. And anyway, just breathe, wingnut. Let's see if we can get back to this.
That dwarfs anything seen on the far right. Now, I want to show you the amount of violence from just...
I'm trying to keep this in context, but dadgummit. All right, so spoiler alert. He's looking back 8 months. I'm looking back 5. Just for compare and contrast. Also, he's going to use some nonsense while backing up his claims utilizing right-wing outlets.
Just the past 8 months. And when you see it all together in one place, you realize, maybe this isn't random. Maybe it's a timeline of escalation. And it is getting deadlier by the day. Let me start over here with a chalkboard. Let me just remind you that I said for years, something like, off the top of my head, socialists, anarchists, Islamists, I think I also threw a communist in there, will work together to destabilize Israel and Europe. It will spread to America, and the plan is to collapse the Western world.
All right, so Gaza genocide, Palantir AI powering Israeli drones, and empowering the Gaza genocide. That in and of itself has destabilized support for Israel. A company in Germany cut ties with Palantir because of the work they were doing in Israel, for Israel. Palantir is owned by Peter Thiel. I've got a video coming up on him at some point, but that one's going to be a bit more complex. I may end up having to actually take some time and cut and piece that one all together. That's not one I'm just going to be able to run through with clips. He's a complex character.
Sounds crazy. Let's go to the timeline of the last few months. Let's start in December 2024. December last year, this 20-something guy allegedly gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, Midtown Manhattan. The killer's manifesto raged against the healthcare industry, and left-wing voices treated him like some heroic Robin Hood. According to
so did the alt-right. I'm just going to make that perfectly clear. See, that's the funny thing. The alt-right and the alt-left, well, the alt-right and the left in general dislike corporations pretty much equally. If it wasn't the fact that the alt-right wants to control things, if they could just let go of that control mechanism and realize how much they have in common with the ones they perceive as the opposition, we might actually be able to get some stuff done. But I'm not going to hold my breath for that to happen. Anyway, moving right along.
Disturbing Emerson College poll among people between 18 and 29 years old, 41% said killing the healthcare CEO was either acceptable or somewhat acceptable.
From my observation on the right, it was way higher than that. But then again, I was working within an alt-right MAGA-centric echo chamber. So I have to give full disclosure on that in the response, because these cats are pretty radical. Anyway, let's see how much further we can get into this.
41%. On January 27th, by the way, would we say he was a socialist or an anarchist? January 27th, let's go here. January 27th, 2025, a man carrying a Molotov.
Now, wait a minute. Remember from his political spectrum that I showed you earlier, he's talking about anarchists, and they're like on the far right. The anarchists start where the libertarians stop, going to the right end of the spectrum. Of course, he showed it on the left on his chart, but which, that's interesting optics. But yeah, anyway, his inconsistencies are annoying.
Molotov cocktail or two, was arrested near the U.S. Capitol, allegedly saying he planned to kill Trump-appointed Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, Defense Secretary Hegseth, and House Speaker Mike Johnson. Then we have, in February,
Yeah, I'm not sure it played out exactly like that. I'm not going to take the time to question all this video. I may go back and do a review on it and confirm or dispel, correct, whatever on this video. Fact check it, I guess you could say.
The Tesla takedown. These are attacks on the vehicles and the dealerships all across, and it all started picking up traction.
Yeah, the Tesla protests. I think it's rather interesting. Let's see. Yeah. You know what I just realized? Oh, he's talking about violent left-wing attacks. Okay. So that's why he would overlook No Kings and Hands Off. Or let's see, what was it? Yeah, it was No Kings 1, Hands Off, No Kings 2. Yeah.
In March, a self-described queer scientist was arrested for allegedly firebombing the New Mexico Republican Party headquarters in Albuquerque. Graffiti that read ICE equals KKK was found on the outside of the burned building. Then we go to April 2025. We go to Pennsylvania. The governor there, Josh Shapiro, his official residence was firebombed on Passover night. The suspect allegedly set the governor's mansion on fire because of what Shapiro, who is Jewish, quote, wants to do to the Palestinian people, end quote. In May, it was the murder of two young...
Okay, so I don't condone violence, but that said, speaking out against somebody wanting to commit violence against your own people, your own ethnic group, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, dude went about it the wrong way. He may have had the right intentions, but he went about it the wrong way. But that's where we start splitting hairs on morality.
Israeli embassy staffers who were gunned down outside the capital of the Jewish Museum there in Washington, D.C. The alleged killer is a 31-year-old man who allegedly shouted, "Free, free Palestine." And while being arrested...
Yeah, I have my doubts about all that. I don't have the numbers in front of me because the U.S. DOJ, Department of Justice, deleted the records of crime statistics that show that a massive majority of armed violence or violent crimes in the United States are committed by right-wing people.
He told police he did it for Gaza. The suspect used to be a part of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, but the group claims we haven't seen him since 2017. Then we go to June. An illegal immigrant...
Did you see how he made those loose correlations to paint the guy as a terrorist? I'm not saying he's not, but he paints with shades of gray watercolors that bleed over, and it makes it difficult to figure out what's real, what's not. Maybe the arrest and the free Palestine were actually happened.
In where is that? Here it is. An illegal immigrant from Egypt allegedly firebombed a peaceful Jewish protest in Boulder, Colorado. 8 victims were hospitalized. One of them was an 82-year-old woman. She survived the Holocaust but died of her injuries weeks later in this incident.
ICE in December 2025, January 2026, or even going further back. Renee Nicole Good, Alex Jeffrey Pretty, and more. 5-year-old Liam in custody. But the left wing's a terrorist. All right, so I'm sorry. I can't do any more of this video. I can't. But the link is in the description below. This guy is just such he's a real piece of work. Now, unfortunately, this is a real short clip, and I thought this was rather interesting. August 19th, 2025, there's this announcement of Glenn Beck and PragerU teaming up to produce a course for use in AP history classes. This is some Project 2025 stuff right here. But there's also some suspicions out there that I've picked up on that I think may have some validity to them, although I haven't investigated them yet. But it makes sense to me that it's possible PragerU could have been Charlie Kirk's handler because of PragerU's connections with TPUSA and obviously with Blaze TV and the MAGA movement as a whole. But I'm digressing.
It's actual history. I mean, we cut something yesterday. We're working on several of these videos that are going to be used in AP classes, right? So this is AP history in high schools.
Yes, I mean, look, so many Americans are learning history through the lens of Howard Zinn. For those who don't know who Howard Zinn is, I think he categorically destroyed the
Yes.
the history classes in America, right? Teaching a perspective. Not all of it was a lie, but it's the footnotes.
Correct.
It's without the greater perspective of what America is. And so we are taking American history and we're making it fun and engaging. And so that students who would watch this course that we're creating together will not only learn the truth about America, but will have a perspective and enjoy doing it at the same time. That's the edutainment piece of it.
Edutainment. Edutainment is a word that Alex Jones uses. I used it for a while. And well, I used infotainment, but which I think is what InfoWars uses. But edutainment, yeah, they do a lot of alt history stuff. They don't. Right wingers don't like the reality of history, like the genocide of the First Nations, or the sterilization of First Nations women, or the Japanese or German internment camps during World War II, or private prisons, or the Epstein files. All right, I'm digressing. What do we got here? Glenn Beck explains what made him change his mind about Donald Trump. All right, so let's check this out. It looks like I may have gotten this one out of sequence.
I felt so bad about what I said, how I said things in 2016, and I've been feeling this way for a couple of days during this convention. And I just feel like I need to apologize to his children because I can't imagine. I mean, I just had Donald Trump Jr. on with us, and I can't imagine. He acted like we were old friends. I can't imagine they didn't have several conversations about me at the dinner table on some of the things that I said. And I really regret it because I do think publicly, Twitter and everything else, I think the guy is out of control and doesn't care, enjoys it. But I think privately, he's a different guy because his children love him. And I don't believe, like, for example, Ivanka is a psychopath. And how is it Ivanka loves him and all of his children love him as much as they do if he's a psychopath in real life? He's not.
Okay, that didn't age very well either. I'm getting this wound down. I'm sorry it's so daggum long, but I had a lot I wanted to share with you. And there's more, but Glenn will show up in the future as I'm working up other profiles. But I wanted you to have a good foundation of who this guy is. I mean, Glenn Beck says Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader, just like MLK. Let's just let those words fall right out of his mouth.
Make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader as much as Martin Luther King. I'm waiting to see the first city that will make a Charlie Kirk Boulevard. Phoenix, you should be the one. There's a Martin Luther King Boulevard. There should be a Charlie Kirk Boulevard. Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader, and we must take that for him and own that, because all of these so-called civil rights leaders, Black Lives Matter, that was a money scam. That had nothing to do with anything other than money and power. Charlie was actually fighting for civil rights.
Okay, it was all about money and power, huh? Those words aren't playing out so good in 2025 with the ballroom fiasco at the White House. Speaking of,
Tanya and I were alone in the Oval for a while. We were talking about it. And he comes in, he says, you know, I'm doing all this. You see all the gold? I'm like, yes, I can't miss it. You can't miss the gold.
And he's like, it's so important. These foreign leaders, they all come from palaces. And they don't understand. And I know, the White House is different, America's different, but they understand power in a different way. And he said they're coming from these old countries and these big buildings and these palaces. And he said it is important for us to project power.
Yes.
And that is why he's doing it. It's not because he likes gold. He's doing it to project power and wealth. Notice how many prime ministers, they're all flying in all the time from all over the world. I've never seen a president meet with so many foreign dignitaries in the White House all the time.
Yeah, and the media likes to say, well, that's because he's self-important. And
he's projecting American power.
I think so, too. And when I say it's important to him, that's why it's important to him.
I almost wish I had that Shane Vaughn video lined up. Oh, good grief. These cats do not have a unified message. So there was I stick to my guns on this. As a veteran, I'll tell you, if you are on active duty, brother, if you are on active duty, sister, look at the UCMJ, Articles 90, 91, and 92. Article 90 tells you have to obey the legal orders of an officer. Article 91 says you have to obey the legal orders of the non-commissioned officer or warrant officer. And Article 92 clearly states that an illegal order is repugnant to the Constitution. There's your rule book. It's all right there. We learned that in basic, kids. Anyway, let's check out this minute and 14 seconds.
It's not about the president, Donald Trump. This is something that no generation of American has ever seen, not in 250 years of constitutional history. A group of sitting members of Congress, senators and representatives, went on camera and told active duty military personnel and the CIA to ignore orders of the President of the United States. They didn't whisper it. They didn't couch it in a private memo. They released it in a video for the entire world to see. What message is that sending to the rest of the world? For the first time in American political history, members of the United States Congress openly encouraged the military to look at the commander-in-chief and say, no. Now, this does not happen in a constitutional republic, and it cannot happen in a nation that wants to remain one. Now, you can say, and it's reasonable to say, well, this is just advice, right? It's a reminder that you don't follow illegal orders. Sounds reasonable until you look at history. Because history has a merciless way of identifying patterns long before politicians will admit to them.
Now, I'm going to leave that last clip alone. I already said my piece before I even played the video. Now, there's chances that you have seen this clip, maybe not. But Glenn Beck went and made an AI George Washington. They had this crazy conversation, and George sounds an awful lot like Glenn. And they do some really bad things with it, man. I tell you, we may not watch the whole. We probably won't watch the whole thing. And then we'll go back to that one clip that I saved.
We have programmed a lot of information and given you a lot of information on what's going on in today's America. Based on your writings and the writings of the rest of the founders, what is it that you feel is the biggest problem or where we should start to fix things?
If I may speak plainly, my countrymen, the greatest danger to our republic lies not in foreign arms or political faction, but in the decay...
May I just interrupt you for a second? Could you just dumb it down just a little bit?
Okay. I do have...
Can you just dumb it down a little bit? That says a lot, right?
29 points, and they're all referenced to exactly what we said in the
For
past.
this, just speak in today's language.
Okay, I get it. Let me speak to Americans. If I'm honest, America's biggest problem isn't political or economic. It's all moral. You've drifted from the virtues that make liberty possible in the first place. Freedom. To be free, you have to have discipline. You have to have faith. You have to have...
All right, I'm just going to leave it there. Because, I mean, he opens up with that Antifa clip. The raising of the flag at Iwo Jima, where they were fighting the Japanese during World War II when we were fighting the fascists in Germany. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to play that again. I'm just not. I will find that McNaughton video. I'll make a little clip and I'll throw it in on the tail end of this before the closing theme. I'll tell you what. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're a champ. In my opinion, you're a champ because it tells me that you're hungry for knowledge. I appreciate that. Please feel free to share my videos to anybody that you think can benefit from them. I'm hoping to do this with the intentions, I'm doing this with the intentions of trying to educate people that are outside of all of this, to try to provide them with some sort of reference point so that they can have the understanding and hopefully the empathy to be able to interact with a loved one if they can, or maybe be able to help somebody else's loved one if you can't help your own. We live in really challenging times. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I'm going to call it here. I hope y'all take care of yourselves, take care of each other, get the rest that you need, and try to get plenty of fluids. As promised, the McNaughton painting, this was made by a Mormon and has been used by Christian nationalists for a very distinct narrative. I will cover it at some point in the future.